dear colleagues and friends, today I would like to explore Franz Rosenzweig's understanding of Triadic Ontology and its relation to unity. My question is simple, yet it cuts in the middle of Rosenzweig thinking. The question is, how does Rosenzweig deal with difference and unity? And the second part of the question, and must this difference be at the end left behind? One disclaimer at the beginning, Rosenzweig begins from a theological condition. It is the one God of Israel. So we don't deal here with the Christian, let's say, Trinitarian God, but with but very much by Christian tradition inspired thinking. Yet, paradoxically, Rosenzweig in his philosophical and in his theological reflection moves immediately from the one God to a triadic structure. He speaks about God, human being, and work as three irreducible elements, which resist reduction to each other, yet they are not isolated. They are open to a structure of relations. In my paper, I proceed in 4 parts. In the first 2, I will try to answer the question of difference and unity, first from the point of philosophy, then from the point of theology. The second part, then I will ask a eschatological question of the eschatological question, and at the end I will say something about the concept of dialogue in Rosenzweig. So, let us begin again with a new formulation of this question. If the reality begins in unity, that is in one God, how does Rosenzweig justify the emergence of difference, let alone a triadic structure? This question already brings Rosenzweig into conversation with the tradition, with the idealist, what he calls the idealistic tradition, that is the whole philosophical tradition from Ionian to Ionian, so the whole historic philosophy. But I have to mention 2 main sources of his, that is Triadic and Hegel. So he tries to do his philosophy against the German idealism. I will not mention Schelling, or I think I will mention Schelling and Hegel once, and I will not deal with them today. But let us start with the philosophical beginnings of Rosenzweig concept. In his first book of Star Redemption, his opus magnum, Rosenzweig works on the level of epistemology. He isolates 3 basic elements, as I already mentioned, God, human being, and world, as the 3 ultimate limits of our possible knowledge. Of course, that's the Kantian tradition, Kant, and the Neo-Kantian tradition of Rosenzweig's time. Rosenzweig studied in Freiburg, in the center of southwestern Neo-Kantian, and then was very much influenced by Hermann Korn in Berlin. At this stage of Rosenzweig reflection, these 3 epistemic elements are a priori limits of our knowledge, and they are irreducible, so they are standing alone, and they are unrelated. There is no relation between them. That means as well we cannot start by the term of God and somehow through philosophical logic develop them to the notion of man or God. The next step of Rosenzweig is very much problematic, but Rosenzweig tries to gain something from this step, and this step is very much influenced by the discussion of his time around 1800 about the the relation of subject-object in epistemology and Neo-Kantian epistemology, and it goes something like that Rosenzweig asks what we actually know about these a priori limits of our knowledge, be it God, be it man, be it world. And his answer is, we know at the beginning of our questioning nothing about God, human being, or world. But for Rosenzweig, it is not a plain nothing. It is nothing. It is something about this nothing. And through this step, that there is something in our knowledge which we know yet nothing about, Rosenzweig can ascribe to these a priori limits a ontological status. So for him, now the term element of God, human being, and world are not only a priori limits of our knowledge; they are given in their being. So Rosenzweig moves from epistemology to ontology. Maybe this step is a little bit problematic, but Rosenzweig's aim is not to prepare or present a system of philosophy. For him, the aim is the next step, which I will speak in a moment. These ontological elements have the same characteristics as the epistemic one. So they are irreducible, they are standing alone, and they are unrelated. For Rosenzweig, this is a maybe we can see this step as a strawman argument against philosophy. So Rosenzweig first prepares a picture of philosophy, which he then says it doesn't function, because for philosophy these three ontologically given elements are standing alone and they are not connected. There is no relation between them. And the argument from Rosenzweig is from the point of view of our reality. So he says the picture of philosophy doesn't depict our reality as we see it, because our reality is full of life, full of relation, and the picture of which is given by philosophy is not sufficient. It can give us an answer how we should understand our reality. For Rosenzweig, this is very much important because he asked about orientation. How should we understand our reality to be able to act within it? We can. We still have here Thümmel, so we could quote another German poet, Goethe, and his Mephisto, where Mephisto says. I will quote it in full. Grau, in German, Grau, teuer Freund ist alle Theorie, grün das Leben, goldene Baum. So not the philosophical theory is for Rosenzweig important, but the fullness of life, which should be somehow understand through thinking, which philosophy doesn't offer. But how should we enhance philosophy, ask Rosenzweig, to be able to understand the fullness, the green life, the green tree of life? The Rosenzweig answer is through theology, through terms of theology. In his second book of the Star, Rosenzweig introduced what philosophy alone cannot provide. The human being must not only know the world in its limits, but also be able to act within it. For this, Rosenzweig used the categories of theology. These are creation, revelation, and redemption. Through these three relations or categories, theological categories, Rosenzweig can now explain how the three elements, God, human being, and world, are interpreted. It is as follows. The creation is God creates the world and the human being. The revelation is God speaks to the humans, and they speak back. They are not speak back. They are answering to God's word. And at the end, the redemption, human beings are moving back towards God. So the originally isolated elements are now becoming connected through the terms of theology. A great point for Rosenzweig is that now also time enters in this system, because one of his biggest critique against philosophy is that philosophy doesn't deal with time. One could argue against Rosenzweig that, of course, philosophy is dealing with time. One can think about Kant's a priori form der Sinnlichkeit, form der Sinnlichkeit. And that's exactly the point of Rosenzweig, that philosophy deals only a priori terms without any time. But through the enhancement of the terms of theology, now we see that the structure begins to move in time. So we have here the history of the salvation, which is given through the terms of creation, revelation, and redemption. The difference between the three elements is now fruitful, and that is through the connection between them. Rosenzweig called this the form of dialogue, which I will speak at the end of my talk. So, the Triadic Ontology shifts from a first static epistemological framework to a dynamic theological narrative. We can see that we have here three triads. That is one philosophical, this is the epistemological and ontological triad, God, human being, and world. And then we have a theological triad, which is creation, revelation, and redemption. So I hope I have somehow answered the first question, how Rosenzweig deals with the difference and difference. So we now move to the second part of my paper, which will deal with the question, with a eschatological question. It is the triad to be left behind? What I have in mind with this, we see that in the history of salvation there is a movement from unity to difference, that is from creation, this is the process of creation. In the Rosenzweig concept, we have at the beginning the being of God, which is the only being, at the beginning only being. And God creates something out of himself, that is the world and human beings. And this is through the self-limitation of God. God must limit his own ontological structure, his own being, to be able to give space to something out of himself. We know this in a Christian tradition as under the concept of kenosis. In the Jewish tradition, this is the concept of tzimtzum. Now what with the redemption? For Rosenzweig, we have at the end a unity. So the movement of the redemption is from plurality to unity. But now, how should we understand this unity in redemption? Actually, we have in Rosenzweig text two possibilities. First one, does redemption restore ontological unity, overcoming all difference? That would be a ontological unity in God, in which is all dissolved. So the plurality of God, human beings, and world would be destroyed in only one unity in God, as were at the beginning. Or the second possibility, thus redemption preserves plurality, creating a unity that is more ethical, relational, or communal rather than ontological. That would be creating an artificial unity in which humans live in war under the law of God. And we have an issue because in Rosenzweig text, as well in the literature to Rosenzweig, we can find arguments for both positions. On one hand, Rosenzweig often used a language of ontological unity, mystical unity at the end of history. Such reading would prefer a philosophical or theological systematical approach to Rosenzweig's philosophy, or a more Schellingian approach to Rosenzweig. But on the other hand, we have Rosenzweig emphasis on community, politics, and temporal life, which points toward living in unity that somehow preserves a difference. This would be like more religious focus, liturgical focus on Rosenzweig, or let's say Hegelian or Christian reading of Rosenzweig. This rupture or this tension in Rosenzweig we can see through his whole philosophical career from the beginnings, where he dealt with Gnosticism, with Marcion, and as well, I don't know if you are familiar with Selma Lagerlöf's novel Antichrist Miracle, which very much deals with this question of the redemption of the kingdom of God in our world or outside of the world. So the distinction that we can see as well is in this question of ontological or not ontological redemption. The answer is, I have maybe a little bit mislead you. The answer is not either or, but both at the same time. Rosenzweig has two concepts of redemption, because we have one ontological redemption, which is at the end of the time. It's like the ultimate limit of our of the history of salvation. In the eschaton, there will be one being in God. This is like the ultimate limit of time. But we are now still living in the time of redemption, which we are preparing for. So we are always looking towards the end in our living, as I said, towards the redemption. That would mean that we are not we are living in the ontological triadic structure, but we are trying to create somehow a unity between God, human being, and world, but not an ontological unity. So, to conclude this passage, we saw that at the beginning there was an ontological unity in God. From this, through creation, there was created a ontological difference in three ontological given elements of God, human being, and world. And at the end, in the eschaton, there will be again only one ontological given, and that is God. So So in the last section, and it will be the shortest one, I will show how could we understand this unity in our time, the unity of the three elements. And the key concept for this is the concept of dialogue, which is the key structure of Rosenzweig's whole philosophy. We can understand dialogue in three ways. The first, maybe the anthropological one, the dialogue between all us not now I'm speaking only you, but maybe in discussion or at the coffee break. The second one is then, let's say, theological. When let's begin at the beginning of the Bible, God calls Adam, and Adam answers. And for Rosenzweig, this is not only a biblical story, but shows how the elements are in interaction. So the one ontological different element, God, speaks to Adam, to humans, to men, and Adam's answer. It's not only a dialogue between two people, but between two different ontological entities. And I think we can the dialogue as through a systematical perspective, where dialogue becomes a form in which difference is not destroyed. So both elements are still staying there, but somehow a unity is created. Rosenzweig follows this with the power of and. He uses always the I and you, which creates a connective tissue between two separate unities, but does not destroy their own ontological status. So I will, I hope I show how Rosenzweig deals with the concept of unity and plurality, show that the plurality must be at the end, ontologically left behind in the unity with God, ontological unity with God, but the unity in plurality which we live in must be somehow created. And for Rosenzweig, offers a vision in which this unity should be created through dialogue, in which the dialogue does not negate plurality, but the plurality is somehow is aiming to a unity. Thank you.